We had a couple hundred companies do, like Xerox, go through basic accounting changes and real difficulties. And I think I'd have to say I was very disappointed in my generation of leadership. So I started writing and thinking and teaching after my Medtronic career about what is leadership all about. And we went out and talked to 125 people for True North, as you probably saw, and asked them. And they didn't want to talk about traits and characteristics of leadership. A lot of the academics are looking for the secret sauce. Do you have the secret sauce? Do you have it? Do you have it? It's not about that. What people want to talk about is their life stories. And you've read that, but it's really true. People want, that's where they come from. That's where the passion to lead comes from. That's where the inspiration, and being true to your life story, being true to who you are, accepting yourself as you are is one of the hardest tasks we have in our life. And we did find that, about 75% of the people talked about a very significant crucible they'd had in their life. I remember Dan Vasella, CEO of Novartis, highly successful, just stepped aside after 14 years. You know what you want to talk about? You want to talk about what it was like as a little boy, going off to the mountains of Switzerland because he had asthma, being wound up with an alcoholic family composed of 3 brothers and a niece, and his parents sending him out there and being scared, and then at 8 contracting spinal meningitis and tuberculosis and being thrown in a sanatorium. You may have read this story. But, I think it was the personal side that really grabbed me. Here's a scared little kid. His parents don't visit him for a whole year when he's in, can you imagine that? Not visiting your own children when you live 30 minutes away and there's good public transportation. And he thinks he's being killed. And finally this doctor comes in, he calls him his compassionate physician, who treats him like a human being, not rocket science. And he says, they're holding me down like an animal. Don't do that, please hold my hand. So they do. And so he does, and he gives him a big hug because it didn't hurt. It was that just sense of caring. And Dan had a lot of problems. His father died in surgery when he was 12. Actually, his favorite sister died when he was 10. And his mother went away, and he became a rebel. He got into a motorcycle gang, got in a lot of fights, a lot of drinking. But finally, at 18, a girlfriend helped him come out of, hey, what do I want to do with my life? And that's what he decided he wanted to be a physician, like that compassionate physician. So he went all the way back to that 8-year-old boy. This is what I want to do. And then when he got to be chief resident of Zurich, he said, I think I'd rather put my time into being, I think I could do more as head of a pharmaceutical company and take care of a lot more people. And I would say of all the people I've known in the industry, I've known most of the heads of pharmaceutical companies, he's the only one that's emailing with patients, talking to patients, looking at clinical trials, down in the labs all the time saying, hey, we got to get this product to market. Don't tell me market's going to take 3 years. We got to get it out in 18 months or people dying. And it's that kind of passion to get things done and carrying that out with his people that is spree. And he's a very challenging leader and very performance-oriented. So he's got his, and he's still got some dark sides. But the point is, I think coming out of this crucible, this life story. So we're going to do some work this afternoon talking about your challenges. And I know you've done some pre-work on this. But really, what is that drives you? Where is your deepest motivation? And how that enables you to be the authentic person you are, to be the most effective leader you can be. You can't be like someone else. And I think this old idea of emulating other leaders is totally flawed. That you should, I had a lot of people for 20 years of my life, I kept getting advice, well, you should be more like this, you should emulate this person. I was a phony if I did that. It just wasn't who I was. And when I could get to be myself, I was much more effective. So Nick has a saying, he said, I'm not going to ask you to do something I wouldn't do myself, so let me do that. Let me just share you my story. I grew up in a middle-class family in Michigan. My parents were older. My parents were 43 and 37 when I was born. My father was a consultant. He thought he was a failure. I'm an only child, and so he wanted me to be the successful leader he never became. Actually, I thought he was a good consultant, but he thought he should have been a leader, never was. So as early as I can remember, 7, 8, 9, he's suggesting me, son, you could be head of a major company. Implanted my mind, I've held stock in this company back in 1937 called Coca-Cola. It'd be great if you could be CEO of this company, son. He said, if not that, there's a little company down in Cincinnati, a big company down in Cincinnati. It's a great company called Procter & Gamble. And there's also a new company I've heard of called IBM that's emerging out in the East Coast. It's just getting going. Well, other than drinking Coca-Cola, I never heard of any of these companies. It was a pretty heavy trip to lay on a kid, though, I can tell you. But I planted this idea in my mind that this is what I should be doing. So I go through junior high, high school, join a lot of organizations, never get elected to head anything. You know, I'm not head of this club, I'm not elected to student council, I'm not even captain of my tennis team, I'm a good tennis player. So finally, my senior year in high school, never having led anything, I put my name in the hat to be president of senior class. And so I ran. It was clear that I was, in my mind, better qualified than the other. Only one person ran against me. When the votes came in, lost by a margin of 2-1. Wasn't even close. And so in my arrogance, I said, you know, I need a fresh start. I'm going to go 800 miles away to university and find a group of people that really appreciate my leadership, which I hadn't quite figured out. What my friend John Kabat-Zinn says, wherever you go, there you are. You know, you can change venues, but you take yourself with you. And so I went to Georgia Tech all charged up about getting into leadership, having opportunities, ran for office 6 more times, lost all 6 times. So it's pretty clear, if I was a leader, no one saw me that way, no one wanted to have anything to do with me as a leader. So the best thing that ever happened to me is a group of seniors at Georgia Tech pulled me aside and said, Bill, you have a lot of potential, but no one's ever going to want to work with you, much less follow you, because you're moving so fast. It's all about you, and it's really not about anyone else. And you're trying so hard to get ahead that you don't really take time for other people. And that was hard to hear. And I went off and did a lot of reflection that summer and was kind of down, pretty depressed. And I just decided, you know, I'm going to have to change because there are a lot of things about myself that are not right. And so my kind of self-help program. And I was fortunate enough in my junior and senior year to have a lot of leadership opportunities at Georgia Tech. And then I went to graduate school at Harvard and had some more there. And so I came out of Harvard Business School around 24 and went to the government and was kind of riding high, had a great job in the United States Department of Defense, loved my work. And as I mentioned earlier, I was never really very close to my father, although I carried this idea of his forward. I was very close to my mother as an only child. We spent an enormous amount of time. My father was traveling. And so one day, after I'd been watching about 4 months, my father called to say my mother died of a heart attack that morning. And I was really devastated from her loss. I mean, she was someone I was very, very close to in my life. And I'm a person of faith, and I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And I frankly I realized then, when she died, that she was a role model I should have been looking at, not my father. But because of my gender bias, you know, she was the great leader in our family. She was the one who led everything. She'd given up work, but she would led every nonprofit organization known to humankind in our little town. But I missed that. Well, I recovered my mother's death, and I fell in love, got engaged to be married to a wonderful woman from Georgia, and we were all set the date for the wedding, August 1968, and my fiance started developing some headaches, but didn't think too much about it, had it checked, it wasn't a problem. So she went back home to Georgia to plan the wedding, and I remember talking to her on a Saturday night. It was 3 weeks to the day before the wedding, making final plans. And the very next morning, her parents called to say that she died in the night of a malignant brain tumor that was undiagnosed. That was what the underlying cause of the headaches. And I was just devastated because even though I could explain my mother's death in terms of the natural order of things, you hate to lose a parent, to have somebody 25 years old that I was totally in love with disappear from the earth is something I had a lot of problems with. Like I said, I'm a person of faith. But I realized there are just some things in life we don't have the answers to. And so I decided in that moment that, you know, or in that recovery period that what's really important is, you know, you may not be able to change the world like I wanted to do, but maybe you can just change the environment you're in and just impact the people that are there. And that may be the most important thing for me in thinking about leadership. It's really all about those of us here in this space and what we can do at this time. And so I was very fortunate, and you never can explain how things happen in life, but I met a woman not long after that. It turned out to be my wife, Penny, and we just had our 40th wedding anniversary, so I feel very blessed, and I can't tell you how all that happened. I still don't understand it, but sometimes one door closes in life and another door opens, and you've got to, I think, just be there and kind of go with the flow. But I still was on this idea I was going to be CEO of a big company. And so I went to Litton Industries, and I went to Honeywell, thinking, here's a great global company I could be head of. Went to Belgium, was president of Honeywell Europe. Got the worst promotion of my life, got a two-step promotion to come back to the United States and to be what was called a sector head. I had 3 divisions, or 3 groups, 9 divisions, very highly structured organization, separation from customers and employees, which is what I really like to do because we were 9 different businesses. Found myself chasing numbers all the time because I got in a series of turnarounds. And I got handed this business, much like the Xerox situation. It wasn't bankrupt, but they were all turnarounds. And about the time I got the thing turned around, then I got moved to another one, and I was turning it around. And then I got my 3rd series of turnarounds, and I'm one of the candidates to become CEO of Honeywell. And one day I'm driving home. By this time, our kids are in high school. Penny's got a good job. We'd lived in this community for 15 years, 18 years. And I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm miserable. Now, how can you be miserable when seemingly everything's going for you? I was miserable because I was really losing it. I was playing what you might call the corporate game. I was working so hard to become CEO that I was changing. I even changed the way I dressed. I was wearing cufflinks, which I don't wear, trying to be something different. Nothing wrong with wearing cufflinks if you do, guys, but trying to be something different than I was, trying to impress the board of directors, trying to impress top management, trying to say just the right thing, trying to make it look good about my business, even though they're a real mess that we're trying to turn around. And so I came home and told Penny this. And Penny and I have been very close over the years, and so she says to me, she said, well, I've been trying to tell you that for a year. You just didn't want to listen. See, it's often the person closest to you that really sees you as you are, and when you see what you want to see when you look in that mirror, that person holds a mirror up to you as you really are.